Okay, we're going to talk about manifest destiny and the expansion of the United States. So, what is manifest destiny? Manifest destiny is the belief that the United States was destined to stretch across the continent from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean. It's a belief that it is our right, it is only natural to gain all the land from the Atlantic all the way to the Pacific. And there were three main reasons why people believed in manifest destiny. The first were for political reasons. We believed that it was our job to spread democracy to all of the land. The second was economic purposes. Obviously, that would be the more land we gain, the more resources we gain, the more likely we were to gain more wealth. And then the third were for religious reasons, belief that we should spread Christianity to the natives that lived in the West. Okay, so the West opens. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 and the Lewis and Clark expedition of the Louisiana Territory really was the key to opening the West for many settlers. With the Louisiana Purchase, we developed the Oregon Trail, which led us into Oregon country, which is current day Washington and Oregon. And Lewis and Clark had made that journey, talked about the beauty and the rich abundance of resources. And so many people after the Lewis and Clark expedition loaded up and traveled west towards Oregon. It was a time where people believed that they could start over, start fresh, and really make something of themselves. So whole families loaded up and moved to Oregon. We also had the Mormon Trail, which led into Salt Lake, Utah. This was a trail followed by the Mormons, who were run out of New England for with religious persecution, and the Mormons were looking for somewhere where they could practice their religion freely without persecution. And so this is what started the Mormon Trail, and they ended up in Utah. Lastly, the Santa Fe Trail. This trail had been used for quite a while to open up trade down in the southern parts of the United States, and obviously it ended in Santa Fe, New Mexico. These were the main three trails that people would travel when they were moving west. Okay, the Mexican-American War also ended up giving America a great deal of new land. In 1845, Texas petitions to become a state in the United States. Texas had previously won independence from Mexico in the late 1830s, had gone for a while as a republic, independent nation, and then in the 1840s, 1845 to be exact, they petitioned and the Congress accepted them as a state. In 1846, we started having some serious issues with Mexico. Mexico had never recognized Texas as an independent nation, nor did they recognize Texas now as a part of the United States. So they started having some pushback and a little bit of conflict on the border between near the Rio Grande River. Mexico insisted that the border of Mexico was much further north than the Rio Grande, and Texas believed that the Rio Grande was the actual border between Texas and Mexico. And so this is going to lead to a war. Now that Texas is part of the United States is going to send troops into Texas, and troops will go into Mexico, and they're going to spend a little bit of time battling with Mexico. You should have talked about this in great detail in your 7th grade history class, so we're just going to brush over that. Zachary Taylor is going to come out of this as an excellent general for the American military, and later will become a president, partially because of his notoriety over the Mexican-American War. America wins the war, and in 1848, we signed the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which is what ends the war with Mexico. Within the treaty, the first thing Mexico does is recognize that Texas is part of the United States. And the second thing they do is we establish the Rio Grande as the border between the United States and Mexico. The third thing is that Mexico is forced to give up a large chunk of land called the Mexican Cession. This includes present-day California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, parts of Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming. With the Mexican Cession, the continental United States at this point is almost completely fulfilled. There's a little strip of land in Arizona that we later decide to purchase, and that's in 1853 with the Gadsden Purchase. We purchased this little strip of land in Arizona for $10 million. Now the purpose for that is that we were planning, or the South was wanting, the Transcontinental Railroad built through the South. That did not occur, but nonetheless we purchased this land, and at this point we are now the present day, the continental United States is now complete. With the original 13 colonies, we've got this pink area is what we gained after the American Revolution. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 was made by Jefferson, doubling the size of the United States. We gained Spanish Florida in the Adams-Anish Treaty under Monroe. We gained this chunk of land under Monroe in the Convention of 1818 when we set the 49th parallel. We gained Texas when they petitioned for statehood. This was Texas at the time in 1845. 1846, we signed a treaty and got the Oregon Territory, Oregon Territory, sorry. And then this greenish color here is going to be the Mexican Cession, and that's what we gained after the Mexican-American War when we signed the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And then this little strip I was telling you about, we purchased in 1853 called the Gadsden Purchase for $10 million. We're going to later get Alaska and Hawaii. But at this point, with this purchase, the continental United States boundaries were set. Okay, so then in 1848, 1849, we found gold in California near San Francisco. With the discovery of gold, California is going to go from an almost unpopulated area to a booming area within a matter of a year. Thousands are going to rush to San Francisco and surrounding areas because gold was discovered. Thousands, especially men, there were some women, but thousands of men rushed to California to try and find gold. They were called 49ers. Hence the NFL football team, the San Francisco 49ers with the gold helmets. This was all named after this group of miners who came to California to try and find gold in 48 and 49. They had three main routes to get here. All three were highly dangerous, time-consuming, and expensive. So the first one was they could sail 18,000 miles around South America, so all the way down around South America. Now, the issue with that is that they faced storms, sickness, and then also a lot of their supplies either didn't last the whole 18,000 miles or it spoiled. So they had those issues to face if they chose Route 1. Route 2 was sail down to Panama, which is in Latin America, cross overland, and then get back on a boat and sail to California. The issue with that was that the main thing that kept people from doing Route 2 were the tropical diseases that were rampant in Panama, and many died from these tropical diseases as they crossed the land. It also was time-consuming, and it required them to unload all their supplies, carry them across land, and put them on a new ship. So they were paying two cargo fees as well as having to move their goods from, or their supplies from this side to that side, all the way across Panama. The third is going to be they could travel the trails of North America. This one was the most common way to get to California. It was not without dangers, including coming across Native American tribes, hostile Native American tribes, having to cross wild rivers like the Mississippi River that would be extremely hard to cross, having to go over mountain ranges, including the Appalachian and Rocky Mountains, and then just the fact that you had to carry so much with you for such a long journey, depending on how far you came. This California Gold Rush was basically the end of expansion. By this point, we are all the way across the United States. We're in California, we're in Oregon, we've got Texas, we've got the Mexican cession, and people are going to continue to move west, but by 1850, a lot of the West has been settled and is in territories and are now going to start applying for statehood under the terms of the Northwest Ordinance.